everyone, this is Tim with Online Big Blue, bringing you the best of New York Giants sports talk and entertainment. It's the day after the cutdown. We are at the 53-man roster, and it is set for the moment. Why? Because anything can happen. The Giants are probably scanning the waiver wires, looking right now, seeing who we could sign to the 16-man practice squad, seeing who we may potentially sign to replace someone onto the roster. And I do want to just go through the breakdown of the roster real quick because I find it kind of interesting, the way the roster is broken down. The first thing I did want to just tackle real quick, though, is the wide receiver position. Oh, the wide receiver position. I'm wondering how many people are going to be apologizing to Online Big Blue for saying that none of the 4,163 Victor Cruzes were going to make the team. I still remember the moron that made a video about me saying, I didn't know what I'm talking about, and 30% of all rosters in the NFL are made up of undrafted free agents, even though I was only talking about the wide receiver position, and it turned out that I was 100% right. None of the guys made the team. They probably will be on the practice squad, maybe show up later in the season, but you can't fill your roster with undrafted free agents and think they're all going to be Victor Cruzes. We've gone through this scenario. CJ Board outplayed them all during training camp, and he only played in 4 games last year for Jacksonville. And he came out of Tennessee, Chattanooga. Oh my goodness. But you know, we're not even going to get into that. But like I said, the wide receiver position is an interesting position because we did hold on to 5. Now we hold on to Tate, Darius, Sterling Shepard, Coleman, CJ Board. There are a couple receivers on the market right now that got waived, such as like Duke Williams, Robert Foster Jr., and Andre Roberts. Robert Foster Jr. I find interesting because we heard rumblings about him a couple weeks back that the Giants might have some interest in him if he is waived, and of course it turned out that Buffalo did waive him. And Duke Williams also has some starting experience out of Buffalo, and Andre Roberts is actually a good special teams player. Not only, he's an okay wide receiver, but he's a good special teams guy, and that's something that we need in reference to punt and kickoff returns. But I think they're saying that Buffalo is looking into re-signing Mr. Roberts as well. So I think we're gonna have to that's probably kind of not gonna happen. I would be curious to see if Joe Judge is going to be the type of coach that basically says, okay, you made my team, you made my roster, I'm not going to cut you for a free agent. Or, guy that wasn't here. Or is he the type of guy that's going to be a tinkerer? I don't know if all these ancillary moves, bringing guys in and shuffling them in and out, if that's Gettleman or Judge. I don't know 100% for sure. I'm not going to say which one it is because I don't know. But that's what I'm curious about the wide receiver position. I mean, we seem pretty set with the 5 guys that we have. I don't think they're going to be bringing in another wide receiver unless they're going to be replacing one of the guys on the roster. One other thing I found kind of interesting is the fact that we are carrying 11 linebackers. Yeah, we're carrying 11 linebackers. And I know there are going to be some quasi-defensive end linebackers because, You're taking a look at people, going Cam Brown, T.J. Brunson, Lorenzo Carter Coughlin, Tate Crowder, Devontae Downs, Kyler Fackrell, Marcus Golden, Blake Martinez, David Mayo, O'Shane Zimenez. These are guys that are listed on the Giants' websites as linebackers. 11 linebackers. That's crazy to me because then we're also carrying 5 defensive linemen and 1 defensive tackle. And again, this is all on the Giants' website. I am not picking what these guys' positions are. I am just going off of what the Giants have listed them as. We have defensive linemen are going to be B.J. Hill, Dexter Lawrence, R.J. McIntosh, Dalvin Tomlinson, Leonard Williams, and then the defensive tackle is going to be Austin Johnson. So I mean that's interesting that we are carrying 11 linebackers, 6 defensive linemen, and I laughed, and we're also carrying 10 defensive backs. And the defensive back situation is kind of an interesting mix between what they're calling 6 DBs and 4 safeties. And in some ways I'm slightly surprised, and maybe not 100%, that Sean Chandler made the team He played sparingly the last couple of years at a Temple. So, I mean, I find it interesting that he made the team as well. So maybe there's going to be some tinkering there. But carrying 11 linebackers, we're carrying all of our 7th round draft choices. And honestly, outside of Tay Crowder, and I think it's funny, because like I said, we weren't at training camp, so we don't know. You didn't hear a lot about Cam Brown and T.J. Brunson. You didn't hear a lot about them. You didn't hear about a lot about Carter Coughlin excelling. You know, you heard a lot about Tay Crowder. You heard a lot about Devontae Downs, but you didn't hear about these other 3 guys. And somehow they filled the roster, which I find interesting because, like I said, this is a year that we really didn't get to go to training camp. We didn't get to see everything that was going on. So, you know, like I said, they may be impressed in drills and other things that we don't know about. But honestly, we 11 linebackers. I mean, that's an interesting mix because if you take a look at the linebackers, defensive linemen, and defensive backs, you have, you know, if you carry the linebackers and the defensive backs, that's 21 spots in the roster. And then you add another 6. So it's 27 spots out of the roster are filled by linebackers, defensive line, and defensive backs. That's, you know, I mean, I understand 100% because we even did multiple videos on it that they are going to be a defensive substitution. They are going to be a defense that is going to be predicated on certain players' skill sets, and I understand that. Because different skill sets are going to be valuable in different situations, and both, you know, Patrick and Judge have come out and said, you know what, some guys may start some weeks, some guys may start the next weeks, because we are going to go with the talent that is available, that is going to fit the scheme for that week for each opponent, which is great. I like that 100%. But you also sometimes just need to reach a point where you're like, well, you know what? Pure talent also needs to be in the factor. You know, are any of these guys going to be a Blake Martinez? You know, Blake Martinez needs to be a 3-down linebacker because evidently you're going to need to have guys that are going to need to be 3-down players because you got a lot of guys that are going to be rotating in and out. And I get concerned that, especially in the beginning of the season, until everyone learns the system, how that's going to work and how effective that's going to be during substitutions. Only because you have to remember you're going to have so many different guys that are going to try to remember so many different assignments, and then they're going to make sure they're exactly where they are. And a lot of it, they do not have the repetition because of the fact that of the weird training camp we had and no preseason. So it's going to be interesting. But like I said, 11 linebackers, that perplexed me a little bit. The 5 wide receivers didn't perplex me. The carrying the 3 tight ends, the running backs, the offensive line. But like I said, the 11 linebackers and 10 defensive backs. And I know one of the defensive backs is the safety who's just a special teamer, so we're not even going to get into him. But it's our, you know, and then I found it interesting that I want to know what the scuttlebutt is right now with Ryan Connelly. We're probably not going to know for a couple weeks or a couple days, but I want to know why Ryan Connelly did not surface on the team. You know, when he played when we played the limited amount that we saw him play, he seemed to play well. I'm just assuming that the ACL is not strong enough to compete this early in the season. Now, if he clears waivers, I think that would be interesting. Maybe he could come back onto the practice squad. But I'm also concerned that he wouldn't clear waivers because, like I said, he does have an innate ability to find the ball carrier. He does have the ability to get through and navigate and shed blockers and be at the right place at the right time. So, like I said, I find it interesting. Maybe maybe the ACL is not healed as well as we had hoped. You know, and like I said, I've talked about ACL injuries. I had ACL surgery and I had ACL replacement, and then also had torn my meniscus, my mid meniscus, and I had some work on my MCL. So, you know, like I said, that was back in the day. I know surgeries are much better now, but an ACL is a tricky injury to come back from. And I came back from the ACL injury and then retore it. Well, like I say, I was back, and then I was on the field for maybe, I was in the field for all of most of the summer practices, and then I was also into the basic practice leading up into the season, and I actually tore it after it. So I would say 12 months after I was healed, I tore the ACL again and had ACL replacement surgery. So it's a tricky injury to come back from, and everyone responds differently. So maybe he just did not respond the way that the Giants had hoped that he had done, or he would have. And then I'm also still curious, are we carrying David Mayo and Xavier McKinney on the roster? Like I said, the IR situation has gone from 8 games to 3 now. So they have to be, we have to hope that Mayo is back in 3, and that, and that Xavier, he's not going to be back in 3, because he probably, even if he rushed back, he's not going to be back to probably end of November with that Jones fracture in his foot. So maybe that's one of the reasons why they're carrying 10 linebackers, to cover for Mayo. I don't know. I just find 11 linebackers. I just find the linebacker situation very interesting. Because like I said, my only thing is you didn't hear a lot about these guys. So, but you know what? This is just, like I said, this is the day after roster, digest. And I think, like I say, let's see what we do in the next couple days. Let's see what we put on the practice squad. Let's see if we pick up any other free agents and kind of go from there. But you know what? We'll just have to wait and see. We're going to start doing a video a day leading up into the season, leading up to the opener. So that'll be fun. We'll start that on Monday. And again, this is Tim with Online Big Blue, bringing you the best in New York Giants sports talk and entertainment. And as always, if you can like, if you can subscribe, if you can ring that bell, if you can know what that means, that'd be awesome.